Greetings and welcome to Mind the Moment in everyday life. Now, each month we take a theme and we explore how mindfulness can support us in bringing that theme to life in our everyday lives. Our theme for May has been parenting as practice, mindfulness for busy moms and dads. I'm John Roberts from Living Well Community, your home for interactive virtual wellness classes and on-demand programming created and curated for you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. Here with me one more time, your mindfulness guide for May, Cara Lai. Welcome, Cara.
Thanks, John.
How are you
Good to be
today?
here. I'm doing pretty good today. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good to hear it. Now, Cara, the end of last week's session, you proposed a rather profound mindful parenting practice, in my opinion, something which I've been referring to in my head as I don't know mind, which encapsulates the idea, I believe, that as parents and even just as humans, we don't always need to come at every situation with this attitude of like, I know exactly what I need to do here. I know it. I know what needs to be done. I am in charge of this moment. But instead, if we endeavor to encounter experiences, maybe especially new experiences, a bit more softly or openly, we're not thrown off so much when they don't go exactly according to plan because we've prepared ourselves, we've practiced with this thinking of, let's see what this experience has to tell me. Let me listen to it so that I know how to engage with it in the best way possible given the circumstances. Does that sound right? Do I have it more or less correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we talked about. Good, good summary, John.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you, Cara. I like to fact check myself in these situations. So, okay, so I've been baby stepping my way into this practice. I've been doing so by literally saying the words "I don't know" to my son whenever I can, albeit in fairly benign situations. Like, okay, so the other day, I'm driving my son to school, and because we live in the country, there happened to be three cows in the middle of the highway, as happens come a Monday morning, and my son asked, "Why are those cows in the middle of the road, Doc?" And I had a pretty good idea that it was probably because like the fence had come down that was supposed to keep them penned in. Yeah, we had these storms recently, so maybe part of the fence collapsed. But instead of saying that, I said, I don't know, Jack. Why do you think they're in the middle of the road?" And he said, "I think they're taking a walk." And I said, "That's a great thought. Do you think maybe they broke through the fence?" And he said, "No, duh. I think they're just taking a walk." So I guess when you're doing this sort of practice, it's also true you have to be prepared for the other person to put their foot down, even if you're maintaining that I don't know mind.
Yeah, I think it's definitely helpful to remember that just because you have some level of commitment to dropping your opinions and ideas about what's happening in and your need to know what's happening, that other people might still be digging their heels into their viewpoints and opinions and their knowing. And that it might even feel like other people are taking advantage of the fact that you are saying that you don't know to assert their own viewpoint about something. But you might kind of think about it like being a tree, and how a tree can just kind of blow in the wind, but there's these roots to the tree that are deep, and the tree's not actually going to go anywhere unless there's like a real strong wind, and usually that's rare and the tree's unstable. But the roots in this metaphor are the fact that the don't know stance is actually the truest thing that we can find most of the time. Like, you didn't actually know why those cows got out, did you? You
True.
had a thought about it that may have been true, but you didn't actually see the fence collapse from the storm and then the cows wandering out. Maybe they
That's
were
right.
taking a walk. You really didn't know. Jack could have been right, you know? So because we get to be in this don't know mind, it just we get to let go of what maybe doesn't matter as much. It's like and open up to this space of creativity. Like, oh yeah, somebody else's idea about what's happening could be true. something, and we just get to learn more about each other. Like you learned a little bit about how Jack's mind works and his perspective on life, and while still being pretty deeply rooted and some connection to what's true. Like, what can I know right now? Well, I can know that I'm driving in a car and having a conversation with Jack and having thoughts and opinions about what we see. But that's about it. We don't actually know the story behind the cows being in the road.
It's a beautiful way to think about it because you're right. If I just said to him, if he'd said like, "Why are they there?" and I'm like, "Well, here's why, Jack. This because of this." It would have been like he would have just been like, "Oh, okay," and I would have never known like about
Yeah.
what how he would have sort of imaginatively tried to solve that problem. And
Yeah. So don't know mind kind of opens up our space into more creativity and play and yeah, all the things that feeling like we have to know an answer or that we do know an answer, it kind of does the opposite. It solidifies things. It just shuts a conversation down.
so I will. So let me add something to this, Car, which is that I mentioned I was practicing this practice, this I don't know mind practice in sort of benign circumstances, like when there are loose cows around. But to admit, I haven't quite got up to fighting strength when it comes to practicing this more in the heat of the moment. And so I can give you an example. So the other day, my wife was preparing our son, same son, some dinner, and she asked him something like, would you like fish sticks tonight? And he responded by saying, I don't want that. I hate you, which was a little bit surprising to us because I don't know if he's ever said he's hated us before. So, first of many, I'm sure. But I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. And I have to say, the not knowing, the I don't knowing in that situation did not make it feel any better. So I'm not sure if I got, is there something I should have done or could have done or,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that sounds a little tricky. Maybe triggering. I don't know if you were triggered or not, but I might have been. Well, I kind of wonder, John, if you were uh, really fully landed in I don't know in that moment, just because to really be in that requires some degree of not putting pressure on yourself to know. And so I don't know only is really painful if we feel like we should know, you know, you know. So in a situation like that, a parent might be kind of like, oh, there's probably something I should say that's the right thing to say in response to my kid saying, I hate you, to kind of like set him straight or like teach him something or communicate that that's not okay. And so it's not just I don't know, it's I don't know and I should know. And that's not quite a pure I don't know. And I don't know is actually it can be easeful. And the kind of I don't know I'm referring to is an easeful kind of, oh, I just don't know. Interesting. And then and it what that helps us do is it's a relaxed place from which we can just be curious about, I wonder what's going on for Jack right now. I wonder why he's saying that. Maybe he just heard it somewhere and decided to repeat it back because it sounded interesting or he wanted to see what would happen, not because he actually hates me or needs to be set straight. It's kind of like how my 2-year-old likes to say the F word. He's not like actively trying to like hurt somebody with his F bombs. He just is like, this is an interesting word that seems to get a reaction from people. Let me see what happens if I say it right now in front of my grandparents. Uh, so when we take the strain, any kind of strain out of I don't know, and we're just really truly in a pure kind of, oh, I don't know, then there's an interest and a curiosity that can help open us up a little even more to the present moment and what's happening and just be present for it. Whereas I don't know that's combined with pressure to know, it actually is kind of a shut down state that's not curious or open to the present moment. And it's a bit of a disconnection from being fully present. We're like, oh, this moment's not okay. I gotta know. I gotta know what to do.
And I suppose there are different, like, not all I hate yous are built equally. And so you have to figure out which one it is. And I suppose you need to be in a place of openness in order to figure out which I hate you are we dealing with right here.
Yeah,
Just
and
like, yeah.
often like the answers of what to do come from a space of relaxed curiosity. When there isn't that pressure to have an answer, we're relaxed and we're curious. There's more of an ability to assess a situation and respond to what might be needed in any given I hate you situation.
And also, of course, the word you're talking about that your son enjoys using, it can also be used so many ways in so many different situations. So really, he is, I think, maybe practicing that the flexibility of language that maybe mindfulness wants us to use. Also, I guess for people watching, I have seen video of this of Kara's son using this word quite flamboyantly, and it is it's a thing to behold. Your son is kind of my hero, actually.
It's the cutest F bomb you've ever heard.
We'd love to have you as a part of this conversation today as well. Please, if you haven't done so already, do open up the chat. Let us know any questions or comments that may arise for you at any point, as well as anything you happen to know or don't know. Cara, how do you like to lead us today?
Yeah, well, this is a pretty good lead in for the topic that I want to bring in today, which is how kids can be really good teachers for parents in becoming more present and more mindful. They show us, first of all, when we're not present, when we're closed off or reactive, or we are just not open to what's happening right now. And then they invite us to be present and expand into whatever new situation they are presenting us with. If you haven't noticed, this is something I noticed right away about parenting, is that it's kind of like just one constant 18-year long interruption. So you had a plan for how your day was going to go. You had an idea about how your life was going to go, and then it all basically just got interrupted for the long term and the immediate. They're just throughout the whole day, you're being interrupted. And if we do not embrace the interruptions that they present us with, then we suffer. But if we embrace them, then it becomes a lot easier. And it teaches us how to be way more flexible and way more open to whatever it is that the moment is presenting us with, instead of living in our ideas about how things should be and trying to constantly control things. And we have way more of an illusion of control when we don't get interrupted all the time. So, in this way, kids can really help us to grow in a way that actually is conducive to a deeper kind of freedom and happiness than the one we might find from having a lot of control in our lives, or at least the illusion of control. And I've found that parents are some of the most flexible, patient, understanding, caring, compassionate people because of the practice that their kids have forced them into. So it's what I'm referring to basically is opening to and surrendering to the things that our kids present us with that at first feel really unwanted, that we don't want to surrender to, but seeing how they can really actually lead us into expanding past our window of tolerance, expanding our whole window of tolerance so that we're wide open and way more flexible to all the unexpected things that happen in life.
So, Cara, I feel this feels like a wonderful segue into the guided meditation practice, if you are prepared to lead us.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, so we're gonna do a little practice that is on this topic of flexibility and moving with things that are unexpected or interruptions. All right. So find a position that feels easy to be present with for the next, 7, 8 minutes. and let your self relax where you're ready to relax and start to tune into what's happening in your body. Feel whatever sensations you might feel of temperature, pressure, pulsing, tingling. Feel the breath as it comes in and out on its own. No need to control it. And see if you can adopt a mentality of receptivity and even curiosity or interest in how the moment is unfolding, both on a physical level and even on an emotional level or a mental level. So, shifting out of a modality of trying to make this moment a certain way and into one of just being curious about what exactly is this moment? How is it unfolding? What is going to happen? How is it moving? You might notice things that are happening now that you like, things that you don't like, maybe things that don't seem interesting at all. And just invite yourself to recognize that these are simply thoughts and opinions about what's happening, and keep connecting to the raw experience with that same sense of curious receptivity. And whenever you notice that you've been lost in thought, the moment that you recognize that there's no need to get down on ourselves about it or feel like that's a problem, you simply pause and recognize, okay, I'm back. Now I can open again to this moment and whatever unexpected configuration of sensations and thoughts this moment is bringing. We allow it to be just as it is and simply observe as it unfolds. We might start to pay attention to the times when we want to or have the impulse to shift our attention away from the present moment. And the mind starts to wander, when we start to really get into planning something, rehearsing something, or remembering something. What is happening right now that I might not be wanting to feel? That perhaps there's some sense of needing change or fix, and just open to it without trying to meddle with it or make it into a problem. What exactly is it? Is there something happening right now that feels intolerable or not okay? And what if I were to simply allow it to be just the way it is? And if at any point a an experience feels too difficult, truly too difficult or painful to be with, we can always point our attention to something that feels easier to be with, something that doesn't feel charged, like sometimes sounds, just hearing the sounds around you can be helpful with that, or feeling something comfortable in your body, something that helps us stay present through a difficulty. Anything that feels like into our meditation can be welcomed, can be even embraced as an invitation to become more flexible, more open to all the different possibilities of life, to drop our ideas and opinions about what should be happening and to open to what is happening. And when you're ready, you can start to broaden your attention to include the field around you, the space that you're in. If your eyes are closed, you can open them and reconnect with the visual field and come back out of the meditation.
So I noticed that Matt in the chat said, I have to keep reminding myself of my kid's age, of the fact that my kid is 5, and that his behavior is age appropriate. That helps with my mindset and helps set clear expectations and understanding for him as he's doing his parenting. That was a nice way to look at it. Uh,
Yeah, and what that reminds me of too is just how we kind of eternalize things sometimes when our kids do something. It's like, uh-oh, does this mean that when they're 20, they're going to be addicted to heroin? But we just have to be like, oh, right, this is just a thing that a 5-year-old does sometimes. It doesn't have to mean anything about my parenting. It doesn't have to mean anything about who they are. It's just what's happening right now for them.
I like that term you said. I just want to point that out. Eternalize. I think that's a nice way to. I feel like I do that all the time. I'm like, this
Mm.
is the moment my son is going to look back on, and he'll be like, "That's when I realized that my, my parents didn't love me because he didn't listen to my thoughts on the cows." So, Cara, I really loved this idea of the embracing the interruption, if you will, that you mentioned earlier, recognizing that there might be insights or joy to be extracted even from the interruptions in one's life. And I was thinking it's like those trick pictures you see sometimes when it's like, is it two vases or is it a face? And that if you are able to sort of see both at once, then you get a lot more information. The negative space is not always negative, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, I guess that's one way to look at it. Or like a magic eye,
Or two
you
ways to
think,
look at it.
right. Yeah, I mean, if you stay with something with an open mind, then more possibilities open up and you can see more of the nuance and the possibility within a thing that we once thought that our minds try to solidify into
Mm.
just one thing.
And I think about this a lot also in terms of, I mean, less for me in terms of my life being interrupted per se, but more just like this idea of like when I had a kid, a new kind of sense of boredom set in. Like the boredom of like, okay, like I'm just like rocking my kid, waiting for him to fall asleep or whatever. This has been going on for like an hour. Or the boredom of like he wants to play some game that a child would want to play. And I'm like, I am so bored right now. And I realize that if I could try to feel that boredom, it helps me connect to how he feels when he's bored because he's a kid, so he's also bored a lot. He's like, I'm waiting around, I'm waiting for people to do things for me. And it's good to know that, okay, this must be what he feels when he's bored, and it's good to have that kind of
Wow.
connection. But
That's such a, I have not thought about that side of it before, John. I like that a lot because it's so true. I mean, we make our kids wait all the time for us. And so
I'm gonna tell you
maybe,
something, Car. I was at a child's birthday party the other day, and I mean, my son was invited, and there's a moment where he was asking me a question, and so and I don't always do this, but I got down on my knee to sort of like be at his level. Like I'm not that good at doing that consistently. But I realized the longer I was talking to him like that, the more kids started to crowd around us. And like one of the other parents pointed out that like when you get down on a kid's level, all the other kids are like, "Oh, something's happening here," you know. Whereas if you're just kind of like looking down and talking with him, it doesn't have the same invitation. So
hmm.
I invite any parents here to try that sometime. If you're around a lot of children, get down and just talk to one of them and see if the other ones start to crowd around. Cara, there's one thing I feel like there's something I got to speak here, which is I feel as we've been talking, I was realize there's kind of a terror rising up in me, and I realized it was the terror of realizing that I can't ever know my child because I think at least at times I'm like, oh well, if anyone knows this kid, I do, or my wife does. We were there from the moment of and and yet I think what we're talking about here is that you can't ever really no, as we've been talking, I keep saying things like, well, there's this incident in which this happened, but I know that he was feeling this way. And I'm like, no, I guess I don't know that. And it's filling me with a little bit of dread, actually. Is there no knowing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true to some degree, is that just the nature of people is that we're always changing all the time. And so you can never really pin us down. And you can know to some degree some things that patterns that people have, but we can never know if that's how it's always going to be or if it could change in the next 5 minutes. So that is maybe scary in some ways, but it's also just what we have to it's also beautiful, like we don't want our kids to stay like a baby for their whole lives. That would really be tough for everybody. And part of the beauty of parenting is we get to see our kids grow and change and learn and become full on adults and be really proud of them. And so while there is real yeah, there's something painful or hard about uncertainty. It's also, it wouldn't be life if it wasn't uncertain and changing and out of our control. And that's what makes life really beautiful. And that's what makes it possible to stay curious and open and connected to the moment, is because it is always changing and it is always uncertain.
This is the de-eternalization turn, I suppose. Uh, Somebody in the chat here said, I heard somewhere that uncertainty is the only thing certain in life. Say, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste.
But, Cara, I want to give you the chance to tell folks if they want to keep practicing with you outside of these sessions, where's the best place they can go to continue finding out what you're up to, what you're doing?
Yeah, thanks, John. If you go to my website, which is caralai.org, and I'll type that into the chat, you'll see that I offer uh, donation-based classes. And there's one that's particularly for parents that I co-teach with another mindfulness teacher named Ofosu. And we teach that class every month. And these are all online and they're all just drop-ins. So you don't have to have any experience or anything like that. So all are welcome to those. You can see my whole teaching schedule on my website and everything.
Also, some wonderful pictures of birds, which are always welcome me when I go there. Cara, this has been a wonderful set of sessions. Any closing words you'd like folks to go forward with as we're winding up here?
I think maybe just one mantra that we could take from the theme for today's session is, how might this moment be inviting me to be more fully present? How might this interruption be inviting me to be more fully present? So that's what I'll leave us with.
Cara, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Thank you, and I can't wait till we can do it again soon.
Likewise. Thanks, John.
A final word before we go from Irma Bombeck, that distant voice from mid-century American suburbia, who quipped, quote, all of us have moments in our lives that test our courage. Taking children into a house with a white carpet is one of them, end quote. A plain-spoken truth that still haunts my life as a parent, and while parenting may not get easier, the carpets at least do get more colorful until we end less with the carpet we may have wanted, but at least the carpet we have earned, which is usually still enough to keep one's feet toasty and warm on drafty nights. We hope to see you again soon, folks. Until then, please do go forth and be excellent to each other.